Good morning, dear students. Welcome to Genesis. Well, in this video, we are mainly going to cover the difference between evaporation and transpiration, the difference between guttation and bleeding, difference between transpiration and guttation, and we will also cover a diagram which is representing the passage of water through plant. Now let's quickly start with the difference between evaporation and transpiration. See, I will underline the operatives which are essential, and in your board examination you need to write these operatives to get full marks. Number one, in case of evaporation there is loss of water from the surface of water body and in the form of vapor. So these are, in case of transpiration, the loss of water is from the aerial parts of the plant and it takes place in the form of vapor. Second point, it is a physical change. Physical change, that means the water changes from liquid form to vapor form and is controlled by, there are two parameters which are controlling them. One is temperature, another is humidity, and if you look carefully, both of these are external factors. Whereas in case of transpiration, it's a physical process, but it is controlled by both external as well as internal factor. If you remember, the internal factor that controls transpiration is the content of water present in the leaf. External factor, we discussed many external factors like temperature, intensity of light, humidity, concentration of carbon dioxide, atmospheric pressure. So this process is controlled by both external as well as internal factors. And the last point, it is a very fast process compared to transpiration. So transpiration is slower than evaporation. Now, as we did this difference, I have one more question which also comes to our mind, that what is the role of transpiration in climate change? Transpiration plays a major role because transpiration adds moisture to the environment. So transpiration is adding moisture to the environment, which will cause what? It will cause rainfall. So transpiration is directly affecting rainfall. Now let us do the difference between guttation and bleeding. We understand the difference between guttation and bleeding. Let us understand a word which is called exudation. This is seen in plants. Exudation is a process by which a plant will lose just not water but also dissolved substances, and this loss of water will happen not in the form of water vapor like you have studied in transpiration, but in the form of water droplets. So there are two main differences here from transpiration. In case of exudation, the plant is losing lot more than just water. It is losing water with the dissolved substances, and it is not losing water in the form of water vapor but in the form of water droplets. Now there are two such methods that the plants do for this process. Either they will perform exudation by guttation or bleeding, or both. Now what basically happens in case of guttation? Let's see. We already know it occurs from the edges of leaves. These are operators by hydrothroats of uninjured plants. Now why did I mention uninjured? Because when we compare it with bleeding, bleeding is one such phenomena which plants show only when they are injured. So only when they are injured they start to give out, or the plant sap starts to ooze out from those points of injury, and that is called bleeding. So when you are writing the difference between the two, you have to specifically mention the location from where it is happening. So this is only happening from the edges of the leaves by special structures called hydrothroat, and another special point is it does not need any injury. It can happen in any uninjured plant, whereas in case of bleeding it occurs from any cut or injured part of the plant. Only if there is injury, then the plant will show bleeding. The second difference is here the exudate means the fluid which is given out. It contains water and it contains minerals in guttation. But in this case the exudate contains plant sap plus sugar. So they are different. The exudate of guttation is quite different from the exudate of bleeding. Third, it occurs during early morning or late night. Why? Because during early morning or late night the humidity is, if it is higher, the root pressure if it is also higher, then only we can see guttation happening. Whereas this will happen at any time of injury. Whenever there is injury in the plant, at any time the plant is going to perform bleeding, then it does not happen in all the plants that you see around yourself. There are certain specific plants which will show this, one of which is banana, then there is nasturtium, and there is strawberry. Why did I specifically underline nasturtium here? Because it's a scientific name. You also have to do the same in your exam, okay? And we need to remember all the three examples. They may also give you a picture of a plant with water droplets at the edges, and they may ask you to identify what phenomena is happening in the plant. Then you have to say it is guttation. Whereas in case of bleeding, it occurs in all the plants that have any cut or injury. Now let us understand the diagram representing the path of water through plants. Now let us quickly understand this diagram. I know this looks very complicated, but this is very important because it kind of summarizes everything that happens with absorption of water. So let us look at this level. The diagram is divided into two parts. The first part is above the soil level, and then it is below the soil level. So below the soil level we have root and root hair. So the root hair is going to absorb soil water. How will it absorb soil water? There are two mechanisms for it, 1 and 2. 1 is imbibition and 2 is osmosis. We already know these are the two methods by which root hair can easily draw water from the soil. But then how are they different? Where will imbibition happen and where will osmosis take place? Imagine these are two plant cells. They are attached, and here is the cell wall outside. So when the water moves from one cell wall to another cell wall, that means from one plant cell to another plant cell, the water is moving, but it is not entering into the protoplasm. Only from the cell wall to another cell wall, then the process is imbibition. And when the water is moving from one protoplasm to another protoplasm, then the process is osmosis. So both of these processes are happening inside the root hair. These are the two methods by which water will be absorbed by the root hair. Now from the root hair, then the water, we know that the root hair is the extension of epidermal layer. So this layer is the epidermal layer of the root. Now, after this, the water will move to the next level, which is cortex. From cortex, it will directly go to the xylem. Now, this is the continuation of xylem. The question is, from here, the water has to move through the xylem against gravity. So, how is it going to happen? There are three primary factors that will help in moving the water upward against gravity. What are they? Number one is cohesion. We already know cohesion is the force of attraction that keeps one water molecule attached to another water molecule. Second is the root pressure. The root pressure is the pressure that gets generated inside the root due to cell osmosis of water. And the third is capillarity. We know that since the stem, this part is narrower, so this kind of aids in drawing water to greater height. Now from here, the water will be sent to the leaves. Now we already know the section of the leaves. We have already done it in my previous class. So the outermost layer is the upper epidermis. Below upper epidermis is palisade parenchyma. Then is the spongy parenchyma. We know the difference between the two. They are elongated, they are round. They do not have intercellular space. They have intercellular space. You can see the intercellular space right here. Then this is the continuation of the xylem, right? Water from here will now go to the spongy parenchyma. They will also go to the palisade parenchyma. But the problem is, in palisade parenchyma, since there is no intercellular space, the water cannot form a thin layer outside these cells. However, in spongy parenchyma, the water will form a thin layer outside those cells which are facing enough space. That means these cells have enough space, so they are going to form a thin layer of water on their surface. And this thin layer of water is going to evaporate, and the water vapor will start to accumulate in the space which is right above the stoma. And what is this space called? This is known as the substomatal space. If you find this place difficult to understand, please refer to my video where I have explained the section of a leaf. Now inside this leaf, you can see there are few phenomena that are happening. Number one, there will be stomatal transpiration. How? There will be basic diffusion of water vapor from the substomatal space to outside. Second, there will be cuticular transpiration which happens from the cuticle of the leaf. And third, you can see here in this stem region, there is another type of transpiration that happens which is known as the lenticular transpiration. So there are three transpirations labeled here: lenticular transpiration from the bark of the old woody stem, then cuticular transpiration from the cuticle, and stomatal transpiration transpiration which is happening from the stomata. The last thing that is also very important and is seen in leaves is guttation. When can you see this happening? Guttation will happen only when the humidity is high, the root pressure is high, then water is forced out from minute pores which are known as hydrothodes. So this entire diagram sums up everything that we have studied in this chapter. So if you look carefully, the diagram is divided into root, stem and leaves. In the roots, imbibition and osmosis, they are important for the for drawing in water. In the stem, there is cohesion, there is capillarity and there is root pressure which are essential for pushing the water to greater height. There is a form of transpiration which is also happening in the same region which is known as lenticular transpiration. Now in the leaves, we know there are two kinds of transpiration that will happen. One is cuticular transpiration, another is stomatal transpiration. There is one more phenomena that also happens in the leaves, that is called guttation, where because of excess root pressure and high humidity, because of high humidity, remember, the rate of transpiration goes down, and if the root pressure is still high, then water will be forced out of the leaves through pores called hydrothodes. Now we have come to the last part of the chapter where we are going to discuss the difference between transpiration and guttation. Like I do for other differences, here also I'm going to underline the operatives, and those are very, very important, okay? So number one, in case of transpiration, water is lost in the form of vapor, whereas in guttation, water is lost in the form of water droplets. Second, here pure water is lost. That means it is only water which is lost, and that too in the form of vapor. Here the lost water contains mineral salts. So it is just not water but also loss of mineral salts. Third, the water vapor is lost through, we know there are three kinds of transpiration: stomatal transpiration, through lenticels and through cuticle. But in this, the water is only lost through hydrothodes which are present at the margins of the leaf, right? Then they may cause loss of turgidity. Very, very important. We know that it has a major impact on the plant body, because if the plant body starts to lose water by the process of transpiration, they will lose turgidity and this will result into wilting. But such things do not happen in case of guttation. Guttation does not impact the plant so much so that it can cause loss of turgidity. Next, the stomata can be regulated. How can we regulate the stomata? We already know if the guard cells are turgid, then we get to see the stoma. If they are flaccid, the stoma closes. So the opening and closing of the stoma is determined by the turgidity and flaccidity of the guard cell. But in case of hydrothodes, they cannot be regulated. That means they are always open and they do not close. So they are not regulated by any factors. Then it occurs in the presence of sunlight. For transpiration to happen, we already know that higher the intensity, better it is for transpiration, intensity of sunlight, right? So, but in case of guttation, it occurs at night or early evening. Both of these conditions, if you can see, here the sunlight is not intense, but this will happen when the sunlight is intense. Next is, it helps to cool the plant body, but it has no cooling effect at all on the plant body. And last, it needs dry condition. Drier the condition is, greater will be the rate of transpiration. We already know that humidity hampers the rate of transpiration, but here it needs humid condition. So if the condition outside is humid, then you can definitely expect guttation to happen, but humidity can definitely reduce the rate of transpiration. So with this, we have finished this chapter. We are going to soon start the new chapter. I hope you are liking my way of teaching. If you are liking it, please subscribe my channel and give a thumbs up. This will definitely motivate me. Thank you.